Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we go live with a very, very powerful, deep philosophical conversation between King Nimi and the 9 Yogendras. The 9 Yogendras are very powerful sages, very enlightened beings, and they came to meet with this king. He had a lot of questions. So those questions will lead us down some really deep philosophical rabbit holes. And I hope that you're ready for that. All right, so with that, let's get started. So our scene begins, as usual, with Shukadev Goswami. And he is speaking to King Parikshit, and he's speaking about the sage Narad Muni. So Narad was this incredible, is this incredible being who is referred to often as a transcendental spaceman, someone who's able to travel all over the universe, and is a great, wonderful, amazing devotee of Krishna. So this Narad Muni had come to Krishna's capital city of Dwarka. Why? He could go anywhere. Could go anywhere in the universe, to all the most beautiful places, holiday resorts, beaches. He could go anywhere he liked. But he wanted to come and spend time with Krishna. So this is called lalsa, greed. Krishna upasana lalsa is the word used here. Because he was greedy to have Krishna's association. If the supreme being, the supreme lord of everything, the most beautiful being of all, the most intelligent, the most wise, the most powerful, the most famous, the most abundant and wealthy, the epitome of everything was present, and you could go see him, would you? Think about it. Narad had that desire to want to spend time with Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So now, you see, the problem with Narad is he is not allowed, because of a curse by Durvasa, he is not allowed to stay in one place for any length of time. He has to keep moving. And he's been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. He is an eternal being, a transcendental spaceman, an alien, whatever word you want to use. But he doesn't need UFOs. He can travel instantly from anywhere to anywhere. And so he came here to the city of Dwarka 5,000 years ago when Krishna was on this planet to spend time with that supreme Godhead, Sri Krishna. The reason he was able to stay for an extended period of time and not keep moving around as he was normally, as I told you about the curse, was that because where Krishna lives, in the capital of Dwarka, where his home is, wherever Krishna is no different than the spiritual world. And where there is the spiritual world, there can be no influence of duality, no influence of curses or any evil thing, not possible out there. So, therefore, he was free. It's like when you go to the embassy of a country, that embassy is no different than the country itself. The US embassy in a different country, for example, if I went in India to the US embassy, well, that US embassy is supposed to be part of America, although it is in India. Similarly, when Krishna comes to this world, his city is no different than the original spiritual world. That's the beauty. So the conditioned souls, it says here, are struggling within the kingdom of Maya against the cruel laws of material nature, such as birth, death, old age, and disease. So this, where we live, we think we're in this great place where we can enjoy and where we can have all kinds of pleasures and all kinds of fun and excitement. And that's the illusion. That's called Maya. Because behind that illusion of pleasure and fun and excitement and partying and all of that lies birth, death, old age, and disease. You think, oh, birth is not suffering. No, no. We have had many births, you and I, all of us, millions of births. We have had births as humans, as animals, as insects, as birds. We have had all kinds of births. Now we have the human form of life. And in this human form of life, what is important is that we cultivate our spirituality. Why? Because if we do so, then we make progress spiritually, and that's the whole point. You see, then we get to come back again as human beings and continue our journey and continue until we reach that point of liberation or moksha from the cycle of birth and death. So birth and death are two big pieces. And then in between, you've got old age, you've got disease, you've got the need to struggle to survive, just to be able to put food on the table. Or, you need to go out and be a business person and make all kinds of money and, put in the grind and do the hard work and, get into that mode of passion, as it's called in the Vedas. Yeah. And you think you're achieving something, but the reality is you're on a treadmill. And that treadmill, it's a treadmill to nowhere. Because whatever you accumulate, whatever you have to leave it behind. And then you go away empty-handed. So that's our fate. But what is blocking us from seeing that, or realizing that, or being aware of that, is Maya, the illusion. Oh, there's so much pleasure, so much fun. Let's enjoy, let's party, let's have a good time. All right, so Narad is here, and he wanted to, because he was under the direct protection of the omnipotent arms of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? All of us need to be under that shelter, in that protection, because with Krishna there is unlimited transcendental bliss of real life, which is eternal and is meant to be lived in the company of God, in His personal company. We are meant to be with Him. It was designed in this way. We've been searching for love everywhere, and that true love was with Him. We've been searching for knowledge. We try to create this whole information age. That knowledge is to be about Him. We want all kinds of pleasures. That pleasure is with Him. He is the source of all pleasure. He is the ultimate pinnacle of all pleasure. And here we are trying to squeeze pleasure out of, by working hard all day long and then get a little moment's pleasure at the end of the day, watching TV, eating some food, having some sex, whatever it might be that you're into. So, Shukadev, the great sage, says, "My dear king, in the material world, the conditioned souls are confronted by death at every step of life." See, he's not a fear monger. He's telling you the reality. Okay? This is not some, way to get you scared. It is the reality. You have to be safe. One of the big things I come across in my work as a therapist is people need to feel safe. Well, why do we need to feel safe? Because this body is perishable. Because somebody may harm you. Some person may come and be aggressive with you, speak harsh with you. Nowadays, so many people are just being thrown into jail for no reason. Maybe for some reason, according to somebody's opinion and somebody's way of thinking. But also you can be out on the street and driving and, or walking, and you don't know what comes up next. Now, in some countries, bombs are being thrown on residential apartments while people are sleeping. I'm not in favor either this way or that, but I want to know that life is precarious. We never know what the next minute will be. And that's important to understand. So therefore it says here, living entities or conditioned souls are confronted by death at every step of life. Therefore, who amongst the conditioned souls would not render service to the lotus feet of Mukunda or Krishna, who is worshipable even for the greatest of liberated souls? See, even those who are liberated from this world, those who are free from the cycle of birth and death, they worship Him. Why? Because to be liberated isn't the end, it's the beginning of life. Now your spiritual life begins. And when your spiritual life begins, this is what your soul wants to do. It wants to connect with the Supreme Soul in a relationship of love. That is what your soul longs for. That's the real you, not this body, not this mind. But we are conditioned. We are conditioned by this material world. Right? We're conditioned because of our senses. We're conditioned because of our mind. You might say, oh, it's the media or it's the politicians. No, no, no. We're conditioned because we have a mind, because we have senses, and they have a particular nature. And that particular nature, to enjoy, to relax, to feel good, that is taken advantage of by the advertisers and the politicians and so on. They take advantage of our weaknesses. Generally, the conditioned soul use their senses in a false attempt to exploit material nature or sense gratification. But our material senses and their objects are temporary, and it is not possible to become peaceful or happy in the attempt to gratify our temporary senses with the temporary sense objects offered by Maya, the illusory energy of God. It is not possible to become peaceful or happy in the attempt to enjoy our senses. You say, but it is. I'm happy. I was watching this documentary of drug addicts in, I think it's Pennsylvania, a particular town there. And it's like entire streets full with drug addicts. And how did they get to that point? They wanted to feel high. They wanted a touch of ecstasy. They wanted a touch of bliss. And then they started shooting up fentanyl. And now there's some new drug. It's even more deadly. I'm not sure I can remember the name, but okay. But the point is that they're literally standing there in a comatose condition, bent over, in horrible, abject poverty, living just for the next drug, for the next shot, for the next hit. Why did they get to that point? Because they couldn't find happiness in the world. So they tried to get it from this drug, and now the drug got hold of them. And now it won't let go. There was a 34-year-old man, and he was like, he says, I know it's going to kill me, but I have no choice. To get off it is so extremely painful that I'm just going to continue. I know I'm going to die. That's our condition. It's not just his condition. That's our condition, all of us. We know that what we're doing is only deepening the illusion and making us more addicted to this world. Yet we refuse to let go of it. It's like a person who's holding hot coals and those hot coals are burning his hand, but he refuses to let go of them. All you've got to do is let go. Recognize that none of this is really satisfying you. Whatever satisfaction you're getting is just temporary. Strive instead for that highest pleasure of all. And that is with God. That is with Krishna. Listen to his sweet pastimes. Chant his name. And you will experience it for yourself. Due to false ego, we think, I am everything. I'm the most important person. I'm amazing. I'm great. I'm fabulous. I'm wonderful. This is how people talk on the internet, especially on Instagram. You know, there's so much arrogance here. There's so much vanity. There's so much of false ego. I am the most important person. No one is as intelligent as me. No one is as beautiful as me. No one is as strong as me. No one is as rich as me. This is how people think. This is the vanity of this world. This is the foolishness of this world. And so the Bhagavatam says, thinking in this way, we suffer constantly and experience intense anxiety. You'll hear this word all over. Anxiety. People are filled with anxiety. But the Bhagavatam says as soon as we purify the ego by admitting that we are insignificant, eternal servants of God, Krishna, our ego will give us great pleasure. You see, being eternal servants of God, of Krishna, is not some punishment, is not some horrible thing. It's being with the Lord who is full of blissful variety, who is always absorbed in transcendental enjoyment. In fact, he is the reservoir, the fountainhead, the source of all pleasure. And therefore the Bhagavatam says people absorbed in materialistic enjoyment are bound to this world. But if they endeavor to serve Krishna, they can immediately be connected to his Haladini Shakti or bliss potency and get relief from material distress. And then what happens is very interesting. Then we do not yearn for anything. Our desires go away. And we are able to relish the unlimited spiritual bliss that arises from our soul. So, what do you think? Is that something that appeals to you? Or would you rather continue in this Maya? It says here, although our present intelligence is narrow. Narrow why? Why is our intelligence narrow? Because it's limited. We don't want to see beyond what we have desired. We have desired a big house, a car, a bank balance, a partner. These are our narrow desires. But how are those different than those of an animal which wants to eat, sleep, mate, and defend? How are they different? Right? Same thing. We might just live in a big house and the animal might be living out like a deer living in the woods. But you still, when you sleep, you don't know if you're in a big house or you're in the woods. You don't know. Right? When you eat, you enjoy for a few moments. The deer enjoys, the dog enjoys, you enjoy, the cat enjoys, the insect enjoys when they're eating. And then how long can you eat? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? And then what? And it's all being digested. Either you ate well and you digested it, or you didn't digest it, and you go to the bathroom and it's all this every day. So our intelligence is narrow. We don't see beyond this. We don't see the reality. We don't see things as they are. What the Bhagavatam and all these great sages do is they're saying, look at the reality that you're in. Wake up and realize that there is another possibility. And that possibility is not something you need to imagine or hope for or pray for or believe that it lies in some heaven out there. Of course there is all that, but not as they've been telling you. Also, it is not just there, it is right here too. It is within you. It is the nearest thing possible. It is all around you. And it is everywhere and in everyone. We are in this world not experiencing the reality of this world. We're experiencing what's in our mind. What we want, what we don't want, what we like, what we don't like. We're experiencing our mind. We are controlled by our mind. We are controlled by our senses. We are controlled by our country and the leaders and the media and our desires. We are controlled at every step. We're not free. Show me one human being who is free, and I will show you a liar. The only free person is the one who has become liberated from this world, who has become free of their mind, who has become free of their ego, who has become free of identifying with this body or with their desires. That person is free, and such people are very rare to find. So that's why he says our intelligence is narrow. Being conditioned by the laws of nature, we can create unlimited good fortune for ourselves by taking shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda or Krishna. and learning to discriminate between that which is temporary and useless and that which is eternal and real. All right, so back to our story about Narad, and he's come to the house of Vasudeva, right? Narad, if you remember. And he's come to the house of Vasudeva. And Vasudeva is Krishna's father. So Vasudeva seats him on a nice, beautiful throne. And he washes his feet because Narad is a great sage. He's a very wise person. And that is the culture. So then when Narad has come to the house of Vasudeva, Vasudeva has some questions for him. He first glorifies Narad Muni and he says, Kripananam, which refers to, I am the most wretched of persons. I am a miser. See, he refers to himself in that way. He says, my Lord, your visit like that of a father to his children is for the benefit of all living beings. You especially help the most wretched amongst them, as well as those who are advanced on the path towards the Supreme Lord. So in other words, he says, you help the most unfortunate of people who are stuck in this Maya, who are suffering here. And you also come and take pleasure with those who are advanced on their path towards Supreme Lord. So it is said in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad that one who leaves this world without learning about the infallible Supreme, infallible is a beautiful word, you need to understand it, infallible. We are all fallible. Fallible means we are flawed. We are messed up. Right? We all have weaknesses. We all do stupid things. We all have our imperfections, right? So we are fallible. Whereas the Supreme Lord is infallible. He has no such flaws. He has no such weaknesses. He has no such bad qualities, right? So the infallible, he who leaves this world without learning about the infallible Supreme is a kripana or a miser. Is he a miser? See, we were awarded this human form of life so that we could understand our eternal blissful relationship with God. This human form of body was a great fortune because with this we have the intelligence to understand God. But if we are unable to do so, then we have derived no permanent benefit. Even if you had attained all the treasures of earth, even if you gained a vast kingdom, even if you had billions and billions and billions of dollars, even if you were the richest person alive, still you have gained no permanent benefit. You have lost your life, devoted to all the things of the world. Yes, you may even have done a lot of good for people. You may have helped a lot of people. You may have done a lot of charity with your money. But that will only give you pious credit. And that pious credit might take you to the heavenly planets, where there's even better life than there is here. It might give you a lot of wealth in your next life because you did so much good deeds and piety. But it will not liberate you from this world. It will not free you from the cycle. In fact, it will very much keep you in this world. Both good deeds and bad deeds will keep you in this world. They will not free you from this world. Freedom only comes when you connect with that divine being. Freedom comes when you understand that this is not your home. You do not belong here. And that nothing in this world can make you happy, neither if you have all the wealth in the world or if you are poor. Neither the drugs of the world, nor all the restaurants and all the pleasures, and none of that is going to truly satisfy your soul. Your soul is not concerned with all this stuff. It means nothing. It says here, one who receives a great treasure, but can neither use it himself nor dedicate it to the happiness of others is called a miser. For a person who leaves this world with having gained this great treasure of human life, but not being able to use it to understand God, is a miser. It says that great souls like Narad Muni are so empowered by Krishna that they can uplift miserly rascals like us out of our illusion. Just as a kind father goes to his child and wakes him from a distressing nightmare. Our present materialistic life is like a troublesome dream from which great souls such as Narad can wake us. Narad is especially empowered to give instructions in the art of bhakti. And that's what he starts to do. So Vasudeva is asking him some questions. And here's what Vasudeva says. So Vasudeva, remember again, is Krishna's father, right? He's the one who's kneeling at the feet of the great sage. So Vasudeva asked, the activities of the devas, demigods, lead to both misery and happiness for living beings. But the activities of great saints like you who have accepted the Supreme Lord as their very soul result only in the happiness of all beings. So he's basically pointing out that the path you follow is of greatest value for everyone. And that worshipping demigods or devas is useless. Many people think that Hinduism or the religion of India is polytheistic, that there are many demigods. But Narad Muni is very clearly saying here, although the demigods are in charge of all the affairs of the universe. He says, although demigods are millions of times more powerful than human beings on earth, they are ultimately tiny servants of God, whom the Supreme Lord allows to play act as controllers of the universe. They control the different elements, they control different aspects of the universe, but they are not God. One should be very clear about this. So now Vasudeva is asking, I wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure, those actions which give pleasure to God. Any mortal who faithfully hears about this will be freed from all kinds of fear. See, Vasudeva, being Krishna's father, was extremely exalted. Yet, he did not become proud of his special relationship with Krishna. He considered himself deficient, lacking in spiritual understanding. This is the correct approach for one who wants to advance in spiritual life, to consider oneself insufficient, inadequate, to be humble, because only in humility can one progress spiritually. These people who pose as spiritualists go around the internet showing off that they are healers or that they are, in some way trying to present how beautiful, sexy, rich, or whatever it is they are. They're a waste of time. You're wasting your time if you are listening to these influencers, wasting your energy, wasting your intelligence. A true spiritual person recognizes that they are deficient in spiritual understanding, that they do not have spiritual. To know that you do not know is the greatest step to knowledge. That's what Socrates had said. And that is the teaching of all the great sages came, of all the people who truly advanced in spiritual life. Because when you think you know, then you're a fool. Someone who thinks they know, he's a fool. Want me to say it again? No, it's the one who thinks they do not know. That is the truly wise person. Because only when you realize you do not know, then you become empty. You're like an empty cup. And when there is an empty cup, you can fill it with some water or something else. But if it's full, well, then you can't put anything in it. So a person who thinks they know is plateaued, is intellectually dead. But someone who knows that they do not know is always curious and open and ready to learn. At the same time, we also need to know this about ourselves. that whatever we might be proud of, our appearance, our wealth, our intelligence, all of that will be taken away from us. As time goes by, this body gets older and decays. As time goes by, our ability to enjoy our wealth goes away. As time goes by, the pleasures of the senses fade. Now we're still here, but we're not able to enjoy as we once did. It's very frustrating. This, it says in the Bhagavatam, this incomparable humility of a pure devotee of Krishna is far superior to the false humility of the impersonalist. So the impersonalist is the person who wants to merge into God, who wants to become God, who says, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. This is impersonalism. This is a great disease that has been spread all over the world. So the incomparable humility of a pure devotee of Krishna is far superior to the false humility of the impersonalist, who actually maintains a desire to be equal to God through adopting the external behavior of a meek and saintly person. Externally they come like that, but inside is they're desiring to become equal to God. I want to become greater than the greatest, or equal to the greatest at least. Krishna is the well-wishing friend of every living entity. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. If a living entity gives up his misguided attempt to defy the Supreme Lord and surrenders to him, then certainly he becomes confident in his eternal relationship with Krishna. A surrendered soul can actually experience that Krishna is his well-wishing friend. And since that friend is the supreme absolute controller of all existence, there is no cause for fear. Right? So this is the beauty of Radha and Krishna. And this is the invitation for us to come and be with them. So now Vasudeva begins talking about how in his previous life he had prayed to have a child. What kind of child? He wanted to have the Supreme Lord as his child. He wanted to have God as his child. He didn't ask for liberation. He didn't ask for freedom from this world. But he wanted to have God as his child. So Vasudeva and his wife Devaki performed severe penances and austerities for thousands of heavenly years in their previous births as Sutapa and Prishni. And then he's now lamenting and wishing that it would have been better if he would have desired to go back to the spiritual world to serve God, the Supreme Lord, in this, there. So here Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that we should desire to go back home, back to Godhead, rather than trying to bring God to this world as our son. He says if you want to have God as your child in this world, it requires great penance for you to be able to, great austerity, a lot of difficult practices. But if we want to go back to Krishna, we need only understand him and love him. Through love only, we can very easily go back home, back to Godhead, where we can eternally engage in our loving relationship with him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu freely bestows this benediction of love of Krishna, which allows one to return to God through the simple chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So now Vasudeva is asking Narad, please instruct me as to how I can become free from material existence, which is full of many dangers and keeps us constantly bound in fear. Tell me anyone who does not have fear. Can you say you don't have fear? Can you really say it? Honestly say it? You don't have fear? You don't have fear of the markets going up and down. You don't have fear of what might happen at your job. You don't have fear of somebody, someone, something. Maybe you have fear of nightmares. Maybe you have fear of or phobias of some kind. Everybody has something that they're afraid of. Fear is a very deep part of all our lives. Spirituality is about becoming fearless. So now, Narad was very pleased with these questions of the highly intelligent Vasudev. And so although he knows that that Vasudev is no ordinary being, he is the father of Krishna. I mean, my God, he is such a rare soul. So Narad says to him, you have quite correctly asked about the eternal duty of the living entity towards the Supreme Lord. Such devotional service to the Lord is so potent that its performance can purify the entire universe. How is that? Think about it. Why would serving God purify the entire universe? Any thoughts? So it explains in the next verse, pure bhakti, pure devotional service rendered to the Supreme Lord is spiritually so potent that simply by hearing about such transcendental service, by chanting the Supreme Lord's glories, by meditating on Him, by respectfully and faithfully accepting service to Him, by praising the devotional service of others, even persons who hate God or hate the demigods or all other living beings can be immediately purified. So this is called Bhagavat Dharma. This is the dharma. There is the dharma which we have of our duties in our world, right? This is Sad Dharma, the eternal dharma, or Bhagavat Dharma. This is that aspect of life which is not about survival. Survival is our normal dharma, our day-to-day duties, for our work and for our family and taking care of them, and to our country. We have our duties, our responsibilities, and that is needed, of course. But there is our eternal dharma. That is our temporary dharma, but there is our eternal dharma, our sad dharma. Sad dharma refers to our eternal dharma, our Bhagavat dharma, our eternal relationship to God. That is our true dharma. That is our true nature. Bhagavad Dharma is spiritually so powerful that even those who by worldly standards are implicated in various ways in sinful behavior can easily be purified by adopting any of the processes mentioned in these verses. There's Shravanam, which is to hear about Supreme Lord, Kirtanam, to chant or speak about Him, Vishnu Smaranam, to remember Him, right? Then Pada Sevanam, to serve Him, to worship His feet, Archanam, Vandanam, to glorify Him, Dasyam, to serve, and then Atmanivedanam, ultimately to surrender one's entire being, one's entire self to Him. What does that sound like? It means this: I am yours and you are mine. I am nothing without you. That is the reality. I am nothing without you. And to do this without expectation of receiving something in return, that is pure devotional service. That is pure bhakti. Anukulena anukrishna shilanam bhakti uttamam. Anukul bhakti. Unmotivated devotion. Even the person who wants to get liberation, merge into the light, that is a selfish desire. It is selfish. I am suffering. I want to be free from suffering. That is a selfish desire. If I was saying I'm hungry and I want food, that is a selfish desire. Own it. But if you want nothing but to please God, that is pure bhakti, pure devotion. In Bhagavad Dharma, there is no such impurity. Bhagavad Dharma is devotional service to the Supreme Lord, in which the only objective is the satisfaction of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And therefore this is unique. And therefore it is considered the highest perfectional stage by surrendering to Him. I mean, you say, oh, why should I surrender? Well, you're surrendered to something. You're surrendered to your boss at work. You're surrendered to your partner. You're surrendered to your senses. You're surrendered to Everybody and everything, your country, you're surrendered. You do whatever they tell you. You serve. You're going to serve somebody. Why not serve God? You're going to surrender to someone. Why not surrender to Him? Because there you will get the ultimate benefit. And if you can put aside even the benefit and do it just because He's so incredible. So Narad says, today you have made me remember, my Lord, the supremely blissful personality of Godhead Narayan, who is so auspicious that whoever hears and chants about him becomes completely pious. So then he goes on to talk about a particular situation. There was a great, very highly evolved being known as Rishabdev, who was considered an expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudev. He incarnated in this world to propagate dharma and to lead living entities to liberation. Now this Rishabdev had 100 sons, of which the eldest, Bharat, was Narayana Parayana, completely devoted to Sri Narayan, to Vishnu, to Krishna. And it is because of his fame, Bharat's fame, that this planet became known as Bharatvarsh. King Bharat rejected this world, considering all types of material pleasures temporary and useless. Leaving his beautiful young wife and family, he worshipped Krishna by severe austerities and attained the abode of the Supreme Lord after 3 lifetimes. We've discussed this earlier in the Bhagavatam. Now 9 of his sons became rulers of the 9 islands of Bharatvarsh, of this planet, the 9 continents. And you just see, they're talking about the 9 continents. They know about this. Back then, thousands and thousands of years ago, 81 of them became Brahmins, and then 9 of the remaining sons of Rishab became great sages. These sages were known as the Nava Yogendra. Nava means 9, and Yogendras, that is a particular name given to them. They're yogis of the highest level, Paramhamsa. And they worked vigorously to spread knowledge of the absolute truth throughout the universe. In fact, they wore no clothes. They wandered everywhere naked. No embarrassment, no shame, nothing. Just completely unconcerned about anything worldly. And they were well versed in spiritual science. So they wandered the entire universe. They didn't need any UFOs for that, by the way. They could just go at will wherever they wanted. So these 9 saintly sons of Rishabdev, they're called Paramhamsa. That is the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. They saw the universe as being none different from themselves, as well as none different from the Supreme Soul, Sri Krishna. When you realize that you are no different than everything around you, than everyone around you, and that you are no different than the Supreme Lord, qualitatively no different. Quantitatively, you're tiny. Quantitatively, you are minute, infinitesimal. But qualitatively, yes, you have all the qualities of God within you. That doesn't make you God. That makes you an anksha, or a particle of God, with all the qualities of God. That is not referring to your body. That is not referring to your mind or your ego. No. At that level, you have none of it. You're empty. It is at the level of the soul that you have all the qualities of God. So, the 9 Yogendras are liberated souls who travel freely and everywhere. Right? Now, these 9 cannot be checked. They can go anywhere they want, anywhere at all. So once in Ajanabha, see, originally before the earth was called Bharatvarsh, it was called Ajanabha. This is the former name of the earth. Then from Ajanabha it became Bharatvarsh. Now we call it earth. But that's an English name. This is in Sanskrit. So these 9 great yogis, they came to the performance of King Nimi. King Nimi was having a yagya. A yagya is a sacrifice, right? And they came to where he was having this sacrifice. So they arrived there, and they were luminous. There were many great sages already there, many Brahmins and so on. This great king was having this wonderful yagya, this fire sacrifice and ceremony. But the king, seeing these 9 descending literally from the sky and seeing how luminous they were, says that their effulgence was as brilliant as the sun. Everyone at that time got up and honored them. They stood in respect. King Nimi understood that the 9 sages were Narayana Parayanan. They were very dear to Narayan. Narayan is Vishnu, Vishnu is Krishna. And therefore he was overjoyed at their auspicious arrival, and he offered them suitable sitting places, worshipped them, and so on. You see, when a great sage arrives, he is considered to be no different than God, because that person has no desire other than God. When somebody has given up all false ego, all false sense of this being this body, of identifying with this mind, with the thoughts, with the emotions, with the ego, when they have let go all of that, and they have become fully surrendered to the will of God, that person is now considered a transparent medium to the will of God. And such a person is treated as if God had arrived. They are not God, but as if God had arrived in your presence. You are deeply blessed when you see such a person, when you come into their association, and you can feel it. You can feel their energy. You can feel in their presence that divinity. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that even by a moment's association with such a pure devotee, one can achieve all perfection in life. King Nimi was overjoyed by the auspicious arrival of the sages and worshipped them. He bowed his head and proceeded to ask them questions. Just notice what every one of these people do. When their great sage or great soul arrives, they ask them questions. Why? Because that's how you learn and that's how you grow spiritually. It's not about faith, it's not about belief, it's about understanding. There's a very interesting statement made here about how the Nava Yogendras, the 9 Yogendras, they glowed from their own spiritual effulgence, not due to their ornaments or any other cause. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the original source of all light. His brilliantly glowing body is the source of the all-pervading Brahma Jyoti, the light in the universe. Right? This is where all the yogis want to go and get merged into that. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti, it is said in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything in the kingdom of God, in the spiritual world, is self-effulgent. Like here, everything is dark, and you need a sun to put light into it. But in the spiritual world, everything is self-effulgent. That's what's described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text number 6. Na tad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha. There is no need for sun there. There is no need for any external light source. And the individual soul, each of us, being part and parcel of that Supreme Lord, is also self-effulgent. We are all self-effulgent. But you're not seeing that. Until you come to that stage of pure devotion, until you come into complete alignment with the will of God and complete surrender, then that effulgence comes through. So that is why they naturally radiated the intense effulgence of the soul. Here, King Nimi says that the pure devotees of Lord Vishnu wander throughout the universe, not for their personal selfish interest, but to purify all conditioned souls. To purify us. Just like the explanation is given that just like a representative of the governor may be seen moving within the prison house, but that does not mean that the governor's representative has become a prisoner. He's understood that he's there to negotiate within he come to the prison to negotiate the possible release of those prisoners who have rectified their criminal propensities. So in the same way, those great devotees, they come to negotiate on our behalf that we may be released from the clutches of this illusory world and go back to home, back to Godhead. So again, Maharaj Nimi brings up the same point. He says, for the conditioned souls, the human body is most difficult to achieve, but it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who have achieved human life rarely gain the association of pure devotees such as yourselves. See, there are 8 million species, 8,400,000, right? Of which 400,000 are considered to be humanoid species. 800 million are the other species. That's according to the Vedas. And it is after going through all of those that we've come to the human form of life. So we want to feel that we are making progress. But real progress is spiritual life. It is and to begin spiritual life, we must understand the great dangers of misusing the valuable human life. Then we realize, okay, it's time to wake up. Because all places in this material world are places of suffering. No matter what situation you're in, there will be suffering. There's no way to escape it. The material world is temporary and troublesome, whereas the spiritual world is eternal, blissful, and full of perfect knowledge. Well, how do you know that? You know it because you can experience it within yourself. You can even experience it all around you. The only thing that needs to happen is you need to become free of your mind. That's what meditation teaches you. Quiet that mind, and you can feel the spiritual world here and now. Doesn't mean you're going to be free from the sufferings of this world, but you can experience it and know for a fact that what they're saying here is the truth. That is the nature of the eternal reality. And it is not only there, but it is also here. Because you are also part of that eternal reality, and you can feel it here within yourself even. So then King Nimi asked, please tell me, what is the supreme good? What is the supreme good within this world of birth? And what is that priceless treasure for every person? In the purport is written, the words, a great treasure, are significant in this verse. Just as an ordinary person is overjoyed to receive an unexpected treasure, one who is actually intelligent is overjoyed to gain the association of pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because they can teach us the practical way to free ourselves from material existence and abolish all types of fear. That hearing is called Hari Katha, topics of Krishna in the association of pure devotees, frees us, purifies us of the propensity to suffer in material existence. Then King Nimi continues, yes, please speak about how one should engage in bhakti, in devotional service. And what is it that will truly satisfy the Supreme Lord in such a way that he will give even his own self to the surrendered soul. So when King Nimi had inquired from the Yogendras in this way, they thanked him. They thanked him for his wonderful question, because it was for the benefit of everyone, because it was applicable to everyone. So first, one of them spoke. Kavi was his name. Shri Kavi. He said, I consider that one whose intelligence is constantly disturbed by his falsely identifying himself with the temporary material world can achieve real freedom from fear only by worshipping the lotus feet of the infallible Supreme Lord. In such devotional service, in such bhakti, all fear ceases entirely. Jiva Goswami says that in the process of bhakti yoga is so powerful that even in the early stages of sadhana bhakti, when one is just beginning the practice through following rules and regulations, even a neophyte can have direct experience of fearlessness by the mercy of the Lord. And then as you advance further and you become more mature, all fear is totally vanquished forever. This is a fact. This is truly a fact. So Sri Kavi, the first of the 9 Yogendras, he is speaking, and he says that even ignorant living entities can very easily come to know the Supreme Lord if they adopt those means prescribed by the Lord himself, like in the Bhagavad Gita, right? This is known as Bhagavad Dharma. So again, this is being brought up. O King, one who accepts this process of bhakti to the Supreme or devotion to the Supreme Godhead will never blunder on his path in this world. See, Krishna says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, even if you make the most, you fall down, or you lack anything, he says, I preserve what you have and I provide what you need. And that even if you do fall down and do commit the most abominable of acts, you go astray, you go on the wrong. But he says, if you're rightly resolved towards me, I consider you saintly. I will help you. I will bring you back because you have now aligned yourself with me. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, in all other dharmas, in all other paths, other than Bhagavad Dharma, one must consider the conditioned soul's qualification. But a soul surrendered to the Supreme Lord is never confounded by error, even if unqualified in all other respects. His feet never stumble and he never falls. Even though wandering in the world at whim, he always resides in an auspicious place by the influence of his unswerving worship. So here it's very, very inspiring to know that the path is so powerful. Srila Prabhupada writes that simply by sitting one can learn, and then by eating the remnants of food offered to God, nice palatable dishes, or prasadam as we call it, one can enjoy the presence of the Supreme Lord even through eating wonderful food that is offered to Him. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. Krishna is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering. He says, even if you offer me a leaf, a flower, some water, I will accept it. Everyone can offer that, as long as it's offered with love. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to Him. Meaning that when whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of my beloved Krishna, Narayan. That is the basic idea, to engage all your senses for the pleasure of the Lord. Offer all the fruits of your activities to Him. So that is actually the word ahankara. Ahankara means false ego. We all have this mind, intelligence, and ego. And this ego, the word in Sanskrit is ahankara. Aham means I am. Kara. Kara means doing. I am the doer. The moment you realize, I'm not the doer, the modes of nature are acting on me, and I am then doing. I am literally like a puppet on a string. It's not that God is doing everything. It's not that God is controlling everything. No, my karma and the influence of nature, my hunger, my thirst, my desires, my senses, as well as what is called the 3 modes of nature, they're all acting on me, and now I am going out and doing things. There was a bumper sticker once I'd seen, I owe, so off to work I go. Right? You owe meaning credit. You have credit, you have debts. Because you have debts, therefore you're going and working. Why do you have debts? Because you went out and bought a bunch of stuff. What did you buy? all kinds of things to enjoy your senses, ranging from food to nice things, clothes, etc., etc. Now you're working for that. Basically, you're working for your senses. They are your master. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 27, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, and all austerities that you perform should be done as an offering unto me. That's a simple formula. Very simple formula. And as one keeps on devoting oneself more and more to God, as you keep on chanting and hearing about Him, then the love becomes more mature. And as it becomes manifest, as it becomes mature, you will feel and experience yourself being lifted up from the sufferings of this world. So the Yogendras continue. Kavi says, fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy, Maya, of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets that he is a servant of God. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. So unflinchingly means without wavering. Unalloyed means there's no impurity of desire. You're simply serving God for His pleasure. How can I serve you? What can I do for you? Somehow trying to please. How does one do that? Under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Basically, we are all pleasure seeking. But that pleasure, right, that we are seeking entangles us in this world. If we want to give it up and become free of this tendency, then we now channel that. Instead of trying to please ourselves, we try to please God. You shift it, that's all. Because in the spiritual world, there is real spiritual ananda or bliss. Krishna is there with in his ecstatic spiritual form, surrounded by his blissful associates, all of them in spiritual bodies, enjoying blissful existence. They have nothing to do with material existence. In the spiritual planets, even the scenery and birds and animals are fully conscious of Krishna and always absorbed in transcendental bliss. Krishna says in Gita, Yad gatva na nivartante tad dham paramam mama. Chapter 15, text number 6. One who goes to that blissful spiritual planet of mine will be fully satisfied and never come back to the material platform. So now we continue with that. There's a lot in here. I'm going to move through some of this. If you're ever interested in reading it in detail, there is a lot to learn. But mostly it is specifying or clarifying that it is by the mercy of the spiritual master that one can begin to develop this blissful relationship with Krishna, that one can understand it. And because Krishna says one must learn from someone who has seen the truth, someone who has realized it, someone who has experienced it. Only when you have something can you give that thing. What you do not have, you cannot give. So if somebody wants some money from me, then unless I have money, how can I give it to them? If I'm broke, what can I give them? If somebody wants food from me, unless I have some food, what can I give them? So similarly, the person who has got Krishna, who has already attained his blessings, his lotus feet, who has experienced him, only such a person can give you Krishna. That is the basic simple thing. So then Kavi continues, although the duality of the material world does not ultimately exist, The duality of the material world does not ultimately exist. See, for us, the only thing that exists is the duality. For us, it is sometimes hot, sometimes cold. Sometimes it is we are hungry, sometimes we are thirsty. Sometimes we are sleepy, sometimes we are tired, sometimes we are fresh. We're constantly moving between this duality. So he says the duality of the material world does not actually exist. Where is it? Where does it exist? It exists here in your mind. If you were free of your mind, whether it was hot or cold, you wouldn't care. Whether you were hungry or thirsty, you wouldn't care. You'd just be blissful. The only thing that's keeping you trapped is your mind. Therefore, Krishna says that one whose mind is under control, it will be the best of friends, and one who has failed to control their mind, it will be the greatest enemy. So the conditioned soul experiences the world as real under the influence of his own conditioned mind and intelligence. Conditioned means programmed. This experience we are having can be compared to dreaming. And sometimes those dreams can be desirable or horrible. And then when you wake up, you realize, oh, it was just a dream. An intelligent person should therefore control the mind and restrict it from the illusion of seeing things as separate from Krishna. And when the mind is thus controlled, he will experience actual fearlessness. So that is the key. This unalloyed devotion, anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. That one should have unalloyed devotion. Unalloyed means unadulterated, not mixed with personal desire. Look at most people who are religious. They've all got a personal desire. They're praying to God, they're worshiping God, but behind that is their personal desires. They want something out of God. When you want nothing from God, then it is unalloyed, pure devotional service, pure bhakti, pure love of God. It cannot be mixed with material sense gratification or wanting relief from suffering or mental speculation of any kind. The servant must act only for the satisfaction of the master. That's the true relationship. Similarly, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam ekam sharanam vraja. One must see only Krishna everywhere and must act exclusively for his satisfaction. In transcendental Krishna consciousness, there is no contradiction, pettiness, or lack of ecstasy. It is not like a material object which proves temporary and constantly miserable. So now he continues and says, an intelligent person who has controlled his mind and conquered fear should give up all attachment to material objects such as wife, family, nation, and should wander freely without embarrassment, hearing and chanting the names of God, who is the holy names of Krishna are all auspicious because they describe his transcendental birth and activities which he performs within this world for the salvation of the conditioned souls. So in other words, there is nothing more powerful, they're saying, than the names of God. By chanting those names, one comes to the stage of love of God. It takes a while. You got to keep doing it. But over the years, so it takes a few years, right? One's heart becomes cleansed. As more that you stop thinking that I am doing this, you give up your ahankara, your ahamkara, that I am doing, right? You give that up. Then gradually you'll see your heart becomes purified. And as your heart becomes purified, Cheto Darpanamarjanam, the mirror of the heart, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you come to that stage of love of God. As his heart melts, ecstatic love with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly or cries or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, while chanting the holy name of the Lord in pure ecstasy, I lose myself. Thus I laugh, cry, dance, and sing just like a madman. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked his guru, his spiritual master, why this was happening to him, his guru replied, it is the nature of the Mahamantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, that anyone who chants it immediately develops his loving ecstasy for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says these symptoms of ecstasy are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna consciousness movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in this ecstatic fashion. So then it continues here, Kavi continues, and he says, one should consider everything to be an expansion of Krishna, thus seeing everything that exists as an expansion of the Supreme Lord. One should offer his sincere respects to all of nature, to all of life, to every being. See, when you think that God is only in the temple, is only in the church, is only in the mosque, then you have the problem where you don't respect nature. You don't respect the creation. You don't respect other people. You don't, because you think God is only there. God is only in the temple, the church, the mosque, whatever it is. No, God is everywhere. Show me any place that God is not. That's what Guru Nanak had said. So he's everywhere. And so everywhere one can experience him. You say, oh, I can't. It's a world of cars and airplanes and houses and buildings and so on and so forth. Yes, that's what you see. You see the surface. But when you go behind that surface, you will see and feel the presence of God. In all natural things, he is there. His energy is what everything is made of. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, these three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. See, three things come together: pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger. Similarly, one who engages in bhakti experiences three things also: devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from the world. So he says, one who constantly endeavors with unflinching devotion, detachment, and knowledge will achieve the supreme spiritual peace. So now King Nimi, right? King who is here, you'll see again, adds an additional question. Now please tell me, he says, in greater detail about the devotees, the Supreme Lord. What are the natural symptoms by which I can distinguish between the most advanced devotees, those who are on the middle level, and those who are neophytes? What are the typical qualities of such, of different stages? Like not everyone's the same. They may be on the same path, but doesn't mean they're at the same level. So what are the characteristics and symptoms by which one can get to know them? So now another one of the Yogendras, of the 9 Yogendras, his name is Havir. He says, the most advanced devotee sees within everything the presence of God. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Supreme Lord. Now, Krishna says the same thing: everything is within me, and I am in everything. Then a second level, the intermediate level of devotee, called a Madhyam Adhikari, offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, and he shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Godhead. And then finally, a devotee who faithfully engages in worship of the deity in the temple but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general is called a Prakrita Bhakta, or a materialistic devotee, and is to be considered the lowest position. So you'll come across people like this. If you go to a temple, you'll see that they engage in worship of the deity, but they don't behave properly towards other devotees or even people in general. So that is because they have a lot of material desires in them. They are in the lowest position. But one who is at the middle level, a friend to everyone. He's a friend to all devotees, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and he offers his love to God, right? And of course, the pure devotee sees Krishna everywhere, in everything, in everyone. That's the difference. Even while engaging his senses in contact with their objects, one who sees the whole world as the energy of Vishnu is neither repelled nor elated. He is indeed the greatest among devotees. All right, there's a lot here, so I'm going to have to move forward. So basically, one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord becomes free from karma and desire, material lust. And even from the desire to enjoy material sense gratification, social prestige, money not interested. And such a person is considered Bhagavat Uttama, pure devotee. Birth in an aristocratic family, execution of austere and pious activities certainly cause one to take pride in oneself. Similarly, if one enjoys a prestigious position within society, social, all of that, then you start to become proud. But that is not the quality of a devotee. Person who does not experience even a tinge of pride within himself, even though he may have all these material qualifications, wealth and fame, but they're not affected, does not feel a tinge of pride within themselves. Such a person is to be considered the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee gives up the selfish conception by which one thinks this is my property and that is his, when he is no longer concerned with the pleasures of his own material body or indifferent to the indifferent to the discomfort of others, such a person becomes peaceful and satisfied. He considers himself simply one among all the living beings who are equally part and parcel of the Supreme Godhead. Such a satisfied devotee is considered to be the highest standard of devotional service. A pure devotee of the Lord can never forget Krishna's lotus feet. He will not give up his shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord for a single moment, indeed not for half a moment, even in exchange for the benediction of ruling and enjoying the opulence of the entire universe. Such a devotee of the Supreme Lord is to be considered the best of the Vaishnavas. The Supreme Godhead, Shri Krishna, is so kind to the conditioned souls that if they call upon him by speaking his holy name, even unintentionally or unwillingly, the Supreme Lord is inclined to destroy innumerable sinful reactions in their hearts. Therefore, when a devotee who has taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet chants his name, the name of Krishna, with genuine love, Supreme Godhead can never give up the heart of such a devotee. One who has thus captured the Supreme Lord within his heart is to be known as Bhagavat Pradhan, the most exalted devotee of the Lord. So you see, this is the science of bhakti. There's so much to learn, so much to be learned in this. Today's was a very intense masterclass in the science of bhakti. I hope you've learned a lot, and we shall continue next week. This was the end of the 11th canto, chapter number 2. See you next week. Hare Krishna.